B'siyata d'shmaya, we're going to learn Taanit Daf Daled. We're going to start 14 lines from the top of the Amud. And this is going off onto a different topic, but we're going to come back to the rain further on in the topic. Omar Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani, Omar Reb Yonasan. Shloisha, there were three people that Shalu, they made a request, Shaloi kahigon, in an improper manner. L'shnayim heshivu kahigon, two of them were answered, so to speak, properly. Le'echod heshivu shaloi kahigon, and one of them, the response was not a proper, was a challenging response, an improper response. Ve'eluhain, the three are as follows. Eliezer Eved Avram, Eliezer the slave of Avram, who went to look for a wife for Yitzchok. V'Shaul ben Kish, we'll soon see what that was. V'Yiftach Hagil Odi. Explains the Gemara. Eliezer Eved Avram. It says in the pasuk that Eliezer said, "V'hoyo hanara asher oimer eleo," and this maiden, who I will say to her, "Hatino kadeich," you should tip for me your jug. V'eshte, and I will drink. V'omra, and she will say, you drink. V'gam kamalecho ashken, I'll also water your camels. Oiso yichachto, she will be proven avdechol Yitzchok, to be a wife for Yitzchok. Uvo eda, and in her and she I will know ki osiso chesed im Hashem im Adoini, that you've done a blessing, a chesed, a kindness for my master, for Yitzchok. Well, Avram was his master in looking for a wife for Yitzchok. So he just said, I've got a sign. How will I know who's going to be the right wife for Yitzchok? Anyone who will offer to give water to the camels. Yochil afilu chigeres, what happens if she's lim? Afilu suma, what happens if she's blind? And you might not even notice that. And what, you're going to take her for a wife? And nonetheless, as Shivai Kahigan, Hashem responded it was a successful outcome. And indeed it was Rivka that came, who was completely perfect for Yitzchok. But his question, nonetheless, the way he made his request was not so proper, but it worked out for him. Shaul ben Kish, regarding Shaul also, he made a request that was also not so proper. Nonetheless, it worked out for him. It says in the pasuk, "Vayomer ish Yisrael, ha'reisem ish ha'oile hazeh, ki lechoref es Yisrael oile v'hoyo ish asher yakenu." Shaul said, "You see this person Goliath, who's blaspheming Hashem and is working against Klal Yisrael and Hashem. V'hoyo ha'ish, it will be that the man asher yakenu, the one that can smite him, ya'ashrenu al hamelech, the king will make him rich." Oisher Godel, with much riches. Ve'es bitoy, and a daughter of the king. Yitin loy, I will give him as a wife. Ve'es beis oviv yaseh chofshi b'Yisrael. So that's what Shaul said. Shaul said, whoever's going to kill Goliath will get my daughter as a wife. Yochel afilu eved. Well, Shaul, did you take into account that it could be a slave is going to kill Goliath? Afilu mamzer, or a mamzer is going to kill Goliath? And Eliezer Eved Avram was not worried about these because he knew he was going to Avram's family. But Shaul, he should have been worried about that. And nonetheless, Shivai Kahigan, the response he got from Hashem was the one that worked out. When his Daman David, it was none other than David HaMelech, who went and killed Goliath, and indeed he married Shaul's daughter. However, Yiftach Hagil Odi, when it came to Yiftach, there things didn't work out exactly as planned. It says in the pasuk that Yiftach said, that whatever comes out of the doors of my house, when I return in peace from the Amoin, Hashem is going to be for Hashem, and I'm going to offer it up as an oila. So he was hoping that a kosher animal would be the first that would come out of his house when he arrives back. Did you take into account that maybe a dog or a pig would come out? You can't bring them as a korban. And actually the response was even more tragic. It was none other than his daughter that came out. And that's what the Novi said, that Hatzori ein begilad, is there no balm in Gilad? Im roife ein shom, is there no physician? Is there nobody that Kimaduale also Aruchas Bas Ami? And this is alluding to the fact that why didn't you, Yiftach Hagil Odi, make use of, there was a Novi there, Pinchas. Why didn't you go and to the Pinchas, and he will undo your neder, your promise, your vow, he will undo it, and then it will be as if you didn't say anything and your daughter will be fine. But for reasons that challenging to understand, Yiftach didn't want to go to Pinchas, and Pinchas didn't want to go to Yiftach. One, because for the different reasons, they didn't feel it was within their dignity. And what happened was that this girl, her whole life, so to speak, remained to be so as if a korban. There's a discussion if you actually offered her up on the mizbeach, but this daughter remained, so to speak, a korban. And that's what happens when you ask for something and you say something, you make a request without being specific and proper about it. Uchsiv, it says in the pasuk, Uvonu es bomois habal lisreif es benem, and they built the bomois of the Avodah Zarah to burn their children, bo'esh, as oilois labal, they would offer up their children as karbonis to the Avodah Zarah. Asher lo tzivisi, but I, Hashem, have never commanded such a thing, v'lo dibarti, and I have never spoken such a thing, v'lo el salibi, and never entered, so to speak, and never entered my heart to expect or to want anybody to offer a human being as a korban. And the Gemara says, what are these three? Asher lo tzivisi, v'lo dibarti, v'lo el salibi. The Gemara explains, that I did not command, Zeh benoi shel Meisha melech Moav. This is the son of Meisha, the king of Moav. Shenemer, as it says in the pasuk, Vayikach es benoi ha-bechor, he took his firstborn, Asher yimleich tachtov, the one that was going to reign after him, Vayaleu la'oilo ala choyman, he offered him up as an oilo. So v'loid. And that was something where when the Navi says, I never commanded such a thing, Hashem was making it clear, you Melech Moav, offering up your son as a korban, I never commanded such a thing, I'm not interested in human korbanos. V'lo dibarti, I never spoke about human korbanos. This is referring to Yiftach, as we just saw now, that Yiftach, he made his daughter into a korban. Here the Navi is saying, I'm not happy that you kept your promise as a promise and kept your daughter as a korban. Or even if you didn't offer as a korban, you made her hektish like a korban. You should have undone your korban. When it says that it didn't enter my heart to have a human korban, the Yitzchok ben Avram. This is even talking about the Akedas Yitzchok, and Rashi brings from the Medrash, the Satan, he told Hashem that Avram was never going to offer a korban. And Hashem said, don't worry, I'm going to ask him even to offer up his own son. But don't worry, Hashem says, I never intended him to offer his son. I just wanted to see if he would be prepared to offer his son if I tell him to. But I never had intentions, and indeed Yitzchok did not get offered up. Omer of Brachya, and this is how this comes into this Gemara. Af Knesset Yisrael shalok shaloi kahigan. The Klal Yisrael at some point asked Hashem something in an improper manner, and nonetheless Hashem answered in a way which was proper for Klal Yisrael. Shenemar, it says in the pasuk, "V'neida, let us know, nirdafa, and to let us pursue, lodas es Hashem, to know Hashem, kashachar nochain motzoi, like the morning, nochain motzoi, his going forth, vayovoi kageshem lonu, and you will come to us like rain." And that's what Klal Yisrael said to Hashem. The Klal Yisrael wanted Hashem to be close to us and to connect to us, similar to rain. Omar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem answered to Klal Yisrael, Biti, my daughter, Atche'eles dova, you're asking for something, Shepa'omim is bakish, so sometimes is desirable. Rain is sometimes desirable, and sometimes rain is not desirable. The relationship between me and you is going to be is something that's for always going to be desirable. Shenemer, as it says in the pasuk, that Hashem said, Ketel Yisrael, I will be like dew for Klal Yisrael, Yifrach Kashishano v'yach sharosh of Kalavonoin, and this is, as we saw before, that dew is something which is always necessary and is always there. And another thing that Klal Yisrael asked, which was risky and was not really so proper. Omra Lefonov, Klal Yisrael said to Hashem, Rebbeinu Shalom, and this is a pasuk in Shir Hashirim, Simeni, put me kachoisom as a seal al libech on your heart, so to speak, kachoisom like a seal al zorech on your arm. Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Klal Yisrael, Biti, my daughter, Atche'eles, you're asking something that dovo shepa'omim nire. Sometimes the arm and the heart can be seen. when a person's not wearing clothes. And sometimes it's not seen when he is wearing clothes. I will do to you something that will always be seen. As it says in another pasuk in Yeshaya, Hein al kapayim chakoisicha. Behold, on my palms, so to speak, chakoisicha, I have engraved you, Klal Yisrael, and the eyes can always see the palms, and that was Hashem's response to Klal Yisrael. Continues the Gemara. Ein she'elin es hageshomim. This was an interesting statement in the Mishnah, that the Mishnah said that Ein she'elin es hageshomim elo samuch l'geshomim. You only start asking for rain, which is saying the same talumotar in Borech Aleinu, close to the time where the rain is supposed to be coming down, which is after Sukkot. And the Gemara is going to have two explanations. Sovra, they assumed that she'elo v'azkara chod milsi. They assumed that she'elim doesn't mean what I just said in Borech Aleinu v'sein talumotar. They assumed it means ma'ashiv haruach u'mered hageshem. And what the Mishnah is saying is that you start saying ma'ashiv haruach close to the time when you want the rain. Man Tana, which Tana is it? Omar Rava said, Rabbi Yeshua, it's the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua that says that you start saying the Ma'ashiv Ruach on Shmini Atzeres. The Omar Mishas Hanachosoi, in the Brisa, the term of Rabbi Yeshua was from the night of Shmini Atzeres, but we saw Rabbi Yeshua in the Mishnah that says that it's from the day of Shmini Atzeres. But either way, you start saying Ma'ashiv Ruach on Shmini Atzeres, because from this point on, we're no longer in the Sukkah, it's no longer a curse to have the rain, and therefore it's the time to ask for the rain. That was Rava's opinion. Omale Abaya. Abaya says, Afilu Teimer Rabbi Eliezer. It could even be Rabbi Eliezer, who says that you say Ma'ashiv Ruach on the first day of Sukkot. And however, She'ela L'chud, that when it comes to She'ela, saying then, and this is how we said it originally, that when it says Ein She'elim, it doesn't mean Ma'ashiv Ruach. Normally She'elim doesn't mean Ma'ashiv Ruach. In the context of the Mishnah, where the whole Mishnah is speaking about Mazkirin, mentioning rain, Ma'ashiv Ruach, so Rava said that the She'elim also means Ma'ashiv Ruach. Abaya said no, She'elim means V'sein Talumotar. And indeed V'sein Talumotar, everybody agrees you don't start saying V'sein Talumotar till the end of Yom Tov, till after Yom Tov. She'ela L'chud. That's only Samuch L'Geshamim. We'll soon see exactly when that is, but it's not at the beginning of Yom Tov. Haskara, however, mentioning Ma'ashiv Ruach L'chud, that's different, and that could be at the beginning of Yom Tov. So even Rabbi Eliezer, who says that you say Ma'ashiv Ruach from the first day of Yom Tov, is not a contradiction to this statement that Shoyalim, saying V'sein Talumotar, is only going to be after Yom Tov. The Ikad Omra, there's another version of this. Lema Rabbi Yeshuahi. Can we assume that it's Rabbi Yeshua who says that you say V'sein Talumot, that you say Ma'ashiv Ruach only at the end of Yom Tov? Rabbi Yeshua he to Omar Mishas Hanachosoi. Omar Rava answered no. Afilu Teimer Rabbi Eliezer, it could even be Rabbi Eliezer. And when it says She'elin, it doesn't mean Ma'ashiv Ruach, it means V'sein Talumotar. V'sein Talumotar is only after Yom Tov. She'ela L'chud, the time of saying V'sein Talumotar is the end of Yom Tov, and Azkara L'chud, and saying Ma'ashiv Ruach could be at the beginning of Yom Tov. Continues the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda Oimer ha'oiver lifnei ateva v'chulu. This takes us back to the end of the first Mishnah. The Mishnah says that Rabbi Yehuda says that we already saw that he holds that you start saying Ma'ashiv Ruach on Musaf of Shmini Atzeres. But he says that Ubeyom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach, when it comes to stopping to say Ma'ashiv Ruach, when do you stop saying Ma'ashiv Ruach? Musaf of the first day of Pesach. Shachris you still say Ma'ashiv Ruach, and Musaf you stop saying Ma'ashiv Ruach. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Asks the Gemara Raminu, this seems to contradict the Mishnah we're going to have on Daf Hey. Ad Mosai Shoyalim Es HaGeshamim. Until what point do you say V'sein Talumoto Livrocha in Borech Oleinu? Rabbi Yehuda says Ad Shi'aver HaPesach, until the end of Pesach. On Yom Tov itself, you don't say V'sein Talumotor, but on Chol HaMoed you say V'sein Talumotor. Reb Meir Omer Ad Shi'aver Nisan. Reb Meir says you continue saying V'sein Talumotor until the end of Nisan. So I don't understand. When it comes to Ma'ashiv Ruach, Rabbi Yehuda says you stop saying Ma'ashiv Ruach at Musaf on the first day. But V'sein Talumotor you continue till the end of Pesach. This seems to be a contradiction. Omer of Chizda. So we're going to have a number of answers. We're going to have 4 answers here. Rav Chizda says, Omar Rav Chizda lo ikashya kan lishoil kan lahazkir. Rav Chizda says that when it comes to Mashiv Aruach, you stop with Musaf on the first day of Pesach. When it comes to the same Talumotor, there it's till the end of Pesach. It's two different halachas. Kan lahazkir, kan lishoil, kan lahazkir. Mish'al shoil ve'ozil. You continue asking the same Talumotor until the end of Pesach. But lahazkir, but to say v'sein talumot, to say Mashiv Aruach Merid Hageshem beyond Tavarisha in Posik, you stop after Shachris on the first day of Pesach. Oma Ula. Rav Ula says, how do Rav Chizda? This answer of Rav Chizda is kashya. It's disagreeable, k'chaymetz l'shinayim, like vinegar to the teeth, u'ka'oshon le'inayim, and like smoke for the eyes. Uma, it doesn't make sense. Uma b'mokim she'einei shoel. If on Shmini Atzeres, where there's no Shiloh, there's no V'sein Talumot on Shmini Atzeres, because V'sein Talumot is only on a weekday davening, and Shmini Atzeres is Yom Tov. Nonetheless, Mazkir, you mention in Shachris, from Musaf, you mention Mashiv Aruach, but Mokim, that means even though you don't yet say V'sein Talumot, you already start saying Mashiv Aruach, but Mokim Sheshoil, then in the time where you do say Mashiv Aruach, which is the whole of Pesach, of course you should mention Mashiv Aruach. You should. B'mokim sheshoyel, in the time where you say the same Talumotor, which is the entire Pesach, according to Rabbi Yehuda, of course you should say Mashiv Aruach Merid Hageshem. That means if from Shmini Atzeres you see that even before the same Talumotor, you say Mashiv Aruach, of course whenever you say the same Talumotor, when you're actually asking for rain, you should mention the rain. So that question is very difficult to understand. Ela Oma Ula, that answer, is difficult to understand. Ela Oma Ula says, Trei Tanoi Alibud Rabbi Yehuda. It's true, you've got Rabbi Yehuda in the first Mishnah that says you stop saying Mashiv Aruach after Shachris on the first day of Pesach. You've got the Mishnah on Daf Hey that says you stop saying the same Talumotor at the end of Pesach. It's two different Tanoim, and indeed they are a contradiction. One Tana said in the name of Rabbi Yehuda like this, and one Tana said like this, and the Tana that says in Daf Hey that you stop saying the same Talumota only the end of Pesach, so too you continue saying Mashiv Aruach till the end of Pesach. The Tana of our Mishnah that says that you stop saying Mashiv Aruach after Shachris, so of course you stop saying the same Talumotor from that point on. That was Ula's answer. Rav Yosef gives a third answer. My Achiyaver Pesach, when it says in the Mishnah on Daf Hey that you say the same Talumotor until Achiyaver Pesach, and we understood it means till the end of Pesach, that's not what it means. It means Achiyaver until the Shliach Tzibur passes in front of the Tzibur, Rishon, on the Shachris. That means Hayered beyond of Rishon, Shel Pesach. That means until the Shachris of the first day of Pesach. That's what the Shiyaver means. Shiyaver Pesach means until the first Chazan in the morning of the first day, he still says, so to speak, the same Talumotor and Mashiv Aruach. We'll soon see. The Gemara is going to ask you, don't say the same Talumotor on the first day of Pesach. It's a weekday davening. But Mashiv Aruach you say, but it's on the first day of Pesach till Shachris, and then there's no contradiction to our Mishnah. Omele Abayas argued against Rav Yosef, Sheila b'yomtov mi'ika. You're saying that the Mishnah on Daf Hey that says Ad Mosai shoyalim, till when do you say the same Talumotor? And you said that Shiyaver Pesach. So the way we understood it initially, till the end of Pesach, we can understand during Chol HaMoed Pesach, Shachris, you can say the same Talumotor. It's a weekday davening, but if you say that it means until the Shliach Tzibur on the first day of Pesach says Shachris, that's the last time you say the same Talumotor, you don't say the same Talumotor on Yom Tov. That was Abaya's question against Rav Yosef. Omar Lei says, you're right. But nonetheless, we do say the same Talumotor even on Yom Tov. How can that be? How can you say the same Talumotor on Yom Tov? The same Talumotor is normally in a weekday Shemon Esra. You do say the same Talumotor, but not in Shemon Esra. Shoyel Maturgaman, there was somebody who would get up and say a drasha, and would speak to the Tzibur, on the first day of Pesach, and he would, so to speak, in his Josh, he would ask Hashem and say, continue giving us the rain. So that's how Rav Yosef is explaining that until that Joshua, which was Shachris, until that Joshua, after Shachris, before Musaf, until that Joshua, they would say when the drasha they would say shoyalim, and that's the time that you say Mashiv Haruach. But after the Shachris, after that drasha, you no longer say V'sein Talumotor, and you no longer say Mashiv Haruach, and that's how Rav Yosef answered the contradiction. Says the Gemara, Turgamon Shoyel Davosh Einei Tzorich. I don't understand. If from Musaf you're going to stop, you're not going to say Mashiv Haruach, and you're no longer saying V'sein Talumotor. So why would this person who's saying the drasha, why would he ask? Why would he be shayalim for rain? If the congregation doesn't need the rain, why would he ask for rain? So Elo Mechavarta, the clearest resolution to this contradiction is Keda'ula, like Ula said before, not like Rav Yosef said. And now Rabbi gives a fourth and final explanation to try and explain the contradiction. Rabbi Omar, my Achiyaver Pesach, when it says in the Mishnah on Daf Hey that Rabbi Yehuda says that you say V'sein Talumotor until the end, till after Shachris, until Achiyaver Pesach, until Pesach is over. What does it mean? It doesn't mean till Pesach is over. It means Achiyaver is man shchitas Pesach. It means until the end of the time, which means till the time of Korban Pesach. Korban Pesach is brought only in the afternoon of Erev Pesach. So the Shachris of Erev Pesach, you still say V'sein Talumotor, and you still say Mashiv Haruach. However, after the Shachris, from Mincha, on Erev Pesach, you no longer say V'sein Talumotor. However, you continue saying Mashiv Haruach until Musaf of the next day, of the first day of Pesach, as Rabbi Yehuda says in our Mishnah. So indeed, we're splitting up the Mashiv Haruach from the V'sein Talumotor, and you stop saying V'sein Talumotor after Shachris on Erev Pesach, and you continue saying Mashiv Haruach until after Shachris on the first day of Pesach. It's exactly like when you started saying Mashiv Haruach. Matchiloso, in the same way as when you started saying Mashiv Haruach on Shmini Atzeres Musaf, Mazkir, you said Mashiv Haruach, Afal Pisha Einei Sheil, even though you didn't say V'sein Talumotor, because there is no V'sein Talumotor on Yom Tov, till after Yom Tov. Af Soifoi, so too, on the Mincha of Erev Pesach, Mazkir, you can say, you continue from Mincha Erev Pesach, you continue saying Mashiv Haruach Omer Dageshem, Afal Pisha Einei Sheil, even though you no longer say the V'sein Talumotor. So that was how Rabbi explained it. Omale Abaya. Abaya said, Bishlei Metchilasai, there's a fundamental difference between the beginning and the end. At the beginning, on Sukkot, so Shmini Atzeres, that Tchilasai, the Bishlei Metchilasai, Mazkira Haskora Nami Ritzui Shailohi. You're about to start saying V'sein Talumotor immediately after Yom Tov. You don't say V'sein Talumotor on Yom Tov because that happens not to be a weekday Shemon Esrei. You don't say Baruch Aleinu. But it's already appropriate to mention the Mashiv Haruach in preparation, asking Hashem that our requests for rain of V'sein Talumotor should be answered favorably. That makes sense. Then Ritzui Shaili, it's a preparation, so to speak, for the V'sein Talumotor. We're going to start saying at Ma'ariv on Motzei Yom Tov. Elosoifoi, when it comes to Pesach, Ma'iritzui Shailik, if you stop saying V'sein Talumotor, it means you don't want the rain anymore. If you don't want the rain anymore, why would you continue mentioning the rain in Mashiv Haruach? Elo mechaver to Keda'ula. Again, the clearest resolution to this issue is what Ula said before, that it's just two different Tanoim in the name of Rabbi Yehuda. And now we're going back to the question of from when do you start saying Mashiv Haruach? Omer Rabasi, Omer Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said Halochak Rabbi Yehuda. The halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that you start saying Mashiv Haruach on Musaf of Shmini Atzeres. Omer le Reb Zeira le Rabasi. Reb Zeira said to Rabasi, how could you say in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that you start saying Mashiv Haruach on the Musaf of Shmini Atzeres? What none did we not learn in the Mishnah? We're going to see this later on, that B'shloisha b'mar Cheshvan she'elim geshomim. The Tanakhama say that on the 3rd of Cheshvan, that's the time, that's when the season of rain starts, and therefore that's the time where you start saying V'sein Talumotor Livrocha. That was the Tanakhama later on. B'shloisha b'mar Cheshvan. Rabbi Gamliel argued and said, B'shiva boy, that the time that you start saying V'sein Talumotor is not on the 3rd of Cheshvan, rather on the 7th of Cheshvan. That's the time where the rain season starts. Rabbi Elazar said, Halacha Rabbi Gamliel. The halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel, that the rain starts on the 7th of Mar Cheshvan. So at this point we assume that whenever the rain season starts, that's not only the time you start saying V'sein Talu Motor in Baruch Aleinu, but also the time that you start saying Mashiv Haruach. So Rabbi Elazar says the halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel, that the rain season starts on the 7th of Cheshvan. And Rav Asi says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that you start saying Mashiv Haruach on Musaf of Shmini Atzeres. Well, when does the winter start? When does the rain season start? It can't be both. Omerle. So the answer, says the Gemara, so Rabbi Asi answered back to Reb Zera, Gavra Karamis. I don't understand. You're asking a question one person on another. Rabbi Yochanan held that it was on Shmini Atzeres of the Musaf of Shmini Atzeres, and Rabbi Elazar held it was when Rabbi Gamliel said on the 7th of Mar Cheshvan. What's the contradiction? Why do they have to hold of each other? Ibai saying, or you could answer Loi Kasha, Kan Lishoil, Kan Lahazkir. There's a difference between Mashiv Haruach and V'sein Talu Motor. Mashiv Haruach you can say earlier. There the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. You say Mashiv Haruach from Musaf on Shmini Atzeres. When it comes to Shaila, to asking V'sein Talu Motor, that's like Rabbi Gamliel on the 7th of Cheshvan. Says the Gemara of Omer Rabbi Yochanan says, B'mokoim sheshoyel mazkir. You don't start saying Mashiv Haruach before you start saying before you say V'sein Talu Motor. And Rashi adds in here that this is not only a question, or Rashi says that the question here is, how can you, Rabbi Yochanan, rule like Rabbi Yehuda, that you start saying Mashiv Haruach from Shmini Atzeres of Musaf, but on Shmini Atzeres of Musaf you don't say V'sein Talu Motor, because there is no V'sein Talu Motor till only in a weekday Shmini Esra. That's how Rashi explains. Others explain, how can you say that Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yochanan hold the same, and that you start saying Mashiv Haruach on Shmini Atzeres, Musaf of Shmini Atzeres, and you start saying the same Talu Motor in Zayin Cheshvan? Well, it's got to be that the same time. It's got to be that B'mokim Sheshoyel Mazkir. Says the Gemara, Hu Laf Soka Itmar. It could be that when Rabbi Yochanan says that the same Talu Motor and Mashiv Haruach have to go hand in hand, that's only regarding Pesach, stopping on Pesach, that whenever you stop saying V'sein Talu Motor is the same time you stop saying Mashiv Haruach. Says the Gemara, that can't be. V'omer Rabbi Yochanan explicitly said, Hischil lahazkir, maschil lishol. That when you start saying Mashiv Haruach, that's got to be this time that you can start saying V'sein Talu Motor. Posak milishol, when you stop saying V'sein Talu Motor, Poisik milahazkir, you stop saying Mashiv Haruach. So how can you, Rabbi Yochanan, rule like Rabbi Yehuda, that says in the Mishnah that on Musaf of Shmini Atzeres you start saying Mashiv Haruach, you can't start saying V'sein Talu Motor, then it's Yom Tov. Elo lo kasha, it must be that the way to answer, to resolve this seeming contradiction, it must be ha'alon ha'lahu. That there's a difference between the people in Bovel, the people of Bovel, indeed, they ask for rain, their produce is still in the fields, and therefore they wait to ask for rain. And the same will apply not only V'sein Talu Motor, also Mashiv Haruach on the 7th of Cheshvan. But Ha'alahu, the people in Eretz Yisrael, where they've already collected all the produce, and there's no produce in the fields, and therefore they can start saying Mashiv Haruach and V'sein Talu Motor at the first opportunity from Shmini Atzeres. Says the Gemara, I don't understand. Why do you say, why would there be such a difference? According to us people in Bovel, why do we wait till the 7th of Cheshvan, like Rabbi Gamliel said, the Islan Peira Bedabra, because we have produce in the fields. L'ditu Nami, the people in Eretz Yisrael also, even though they don't have the produce in the fields, Islahu Oile Regalim, do they not have the pilgrims, the people who came to Eretz Yisrael, Faliyah L'Regel, and if there's going to be rain straight after Sukkot, they're all going to get wet on their journey home. So they should also be waiting to ask for the rain till they've all got home. Says the Gemara, Kika Omer Rabbi Yochanan, when Rabbi Yochanan said that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that you start saying Mashiv Haruach and V'sein Talu Motor at the first opportunity, it must be on Shmini Atzeres, that's Bizman She'ein Beis HaMikdash Kaim. It must be, that's when there's no Beis HaMikdash. There's no Beis HaMikdash, there's no pilgrims. So there's no problem asking for rain, including V'sein Talu Motor, straight away at the end of Yom Tov. Says the Gemara, Hashta de Oses Lahochi, once you've come to this idea of understanding there's a difference between before the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash and after, you can answer that, you can explain the contradiction easily. Ha v'ha leditu. They're both talking about people in Eretz Yisrael. V'loi kasha. Can, when Rabbi Loza said the halacha was like Rabbi Gamliel, that you start asking for rain and mentioning the rain on Zayin Cheshvan, is Bisman Beis HaMikdash Kayim. That's when the Beis HaMikdash was standing and there were pilgrims there. Can, and Rabbi Eichnon said the halacha was like Rabbi Yehuda, Bisman Shein Beis HaMikdash Kayim, when the Beis HaMikdash was not Kayim. Continues the Gemara. Now, Va'anan, us people in Chutz La'aretz, in the diaspora, the Islam Trei Yoma, we have 2 days of Shmini Atzeres. Rabbi Yehuda said in the Mishnah that when do you start saying Mashiv HaRuach on Shmini Atzeres Musaf? Well, we have 2 days Shmini Atzeres. In Chutz La'aretz it's known as Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah, because we don't know exactly which day is Shmini Atzeres. On which of those Musafs do you start saying Mashiv HaRuach? Heicha of Dinon. What do we do? And the Mefarshim here, Rabbi Kvega discusses that we just said now that in Chutz La'aretz you wait till Zayin Cheshvan. So what's the question? But either way, that's what the Gemara asks. It seems the Gemara understood that Rabbi Yehuda, who said Musaf of Shmini Atzeres, also applies to people in Chutz La'aretz. And the question is, which day is considered the real Shmini Atzeres? Regarding Mashiv HaRuach. Omar Rav. Rav said, Maschil b'musafin. You start saying Mashiv HaRuach on the first of the Shmini Atzeres, what's really called in Chutz La'aretz Shmini Atzeres. But Upoisek, and then you stop saying Mashiv HaRuach. B'mincha, you stop saying it by Mincha, and Arvis and the Ma'ariv of Simchas Torah, you also don't say it. B'Shachris, again, you don't say it. V'choyzer b'musafin, and then Musaf of Simchas Torah, you start again saying Mashiv HaRuach, because maybe that's the 8th day. Omalu Shmuel said to Rav, I don't understand. Puku v'omru leila Abba. Shmuel said, go out and tell Rav. Rav was called Abba. Rashi says Abba is the term used for my friend. That's what father is. The word father, Rashi says in many places, means a friend. Go and tell my friend Rav that Achar she'asisoi kodesh, after on Shmini Atzeres, you already made it into, so to speak, you sanctified the day and you assumed it to be Shmini Atzeres, and you started saying Mashiv HaRuach or Musaf, Tasei Uchoil, you're now turning it back into a weekday as if it's not Shmini Atzeres, and for Mincha, you're not going to say Mashiv HaRuach. Elo Omar Shmuel argued with Rav and said Maschil b'Musaf, and you start saying it Musaf of Shmini Atzeres. Uba Mincha, and obviously Mincha, you carry on saying Mashiv HaRuach. However, Upoisek Arvis, when it comes to the night of Simchas Torah, here you don't say it anymore. You stop saying Mashiv HaRuach for Ma'ariv, v'Shachris, and you don't say Mashiv HaRuach Shachris, v'Choyzer u'Maschil b'Musafin. So you take each day independently, and each day you start at Musaf. And only for Musaf on Simchas Torah, that's when you again say Mashiv HaRuach, and from then you continue with Mashiv HaRuach through the winter. That was the Shmuel's explanation. Rava argued and said, Kivon shehischil shuvei nepoisuk. Once you start saying Mashiv HaRuach on Musaf of Shmini Atzeres, which is the first day of the Shmini Atzeres in Chutz La'aretz, you don't stop. You continue right through. V'chein omer of Sheishes, Kivon shehischil shuvei nepoisuk, Rav Sheishes said the same. V'af Rav Hadar Bei. Rav also changed his mind and ultimately agreed to what Rav and Rav Sheishes said, that you start on Musaf of Shmini Atzeres and you continue straight through with it. The Omer of Chananel Amar Rav. Rav Chananel said in the name of Rav, Moine Esrim v'Echod Yoim. You count 21 days. Kederech shemoine asara yomim miRosh Hashanah ad Yom Kippurim. Like you count from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. There's no 2 days Yom Kippur. Why? Because we assume the first day of Rosh Hashanah to be the real Rosh Hashanah. So the first day of Rosh Hashanah is day 1. Yom Kippur is day 10. And then you continue 21 days. The 21st day is Hoshana Rabbah, or Maschil, and the next day, which is the first of the Shmini Atzeres, is what we know as Shmini Atzeres in Chutz La'aretz, Musaf, that's when you start saying Mashiv HaRuach, and this is Rav speaking, and once you started with Musaf of Shmini Atzeres, Shuvei Nepoisuk, you don't stop saying Mashiv HaRuach. The Hilchah said, Halacha is Kivan Shehischil, once you start saying Mashiv HaRuach, Shuv Einei Poisuk, you don't stop. From the Musaf of Shmini Atzeres, you start saying Mashiv HaRuach through Mincha, Ma'ariv of Simchas Torah, Shachris of Simchas Torah, Musaf and Sefer of Simchas Torah, and on all the way till Pesach. And in Mirz Hashem in the next Shiur, we're going to continue from here.